The US and Iran accusing each other of violating a 2-week ceasefire that expires tomorrow. But the focus now is on whether both sides will return to talks and reach a deal on a more sustainable end to hostilities before time runs out. On mixed signals from Washington, it says negotiators led by the Vice President J.D. Vance ready to head back to Islamabad for talks. But President Donald Trump ruling out any extension of the truce, warning instead of a return to war with the end of the ceasefire, insisting also that the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports will stay in place until a deal is reached. On Iran's side, state media denying the deployment of any delegation to Pakistan. The top negotiator in the first round is Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, maintaining that there will be no negotiations to be carried out under threat, warning Tehran could have, quote, new cards to play on the battlefield. The first round of talks on the 11th of April not leading to any agreement. Tehran ruling out a second round after the U.S. refused to end its blockade of Iranian ports and then moved to seize an Iranian-flagged ship. Shipping through the key waterway remains stagnant, with tracking data showing just 3 ships making the transit in the past 12 hours. And now correspondents watching developments for CNN, Nick Harper from Washington, D.C. and Hira Mustafa from Islamabad. Nick, let's start with you. The White House says J.D. Vance ready to fly back or could already be flying back to Islamabad. Iran not in the picture yet. Where are we on these talks, whether they're happening or not?
Well, so I must admit the US remains confident and really displaying a level of confidence that's perhaps not fully backed up from Iran. We've heard from Tehran. They say that they are positively reviewing their possible participation in these talks, but still no decision on their side whether they will participate. And one of the problems that's come out over the last few days is a growing anger from Iran about Donald Trump's comments. In particular, they've said that they won't participate under what they've called the shadow of threats. Donald Trump has put out another threat in the last hour on social media saying that Iran has violated the ceasefire numerous times. And remember, the threat at the back of all of that is that he may restart military action against Iran if he feels that a ceasefire has been violated or if Iran does not do a deal. Also, breaking in the last hour, we've heard that US forces have boarded a sanctioned tanker. That's taken place in the Indo-Pacific region. The Pentagon posting this on X, saying that it's all part of its efforts to disrupt vessels that are providing support to Iran. Meanwhile, the US is maintaining its red lines that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, that it must hand over its stockpile of enriched uranium, and that it must reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But part of the problem here is that if J.D. Vance gets on a plane and Iran does not turn up, what does the US do? It could discuss wider diplomacy, including Pakistan's diplomatic efforts. But the big issue underlying all of this is this looming ceasefire deadline, potentially coming up in about 36 hours' time from now, with no clear resolution on what comes next.
All right. Hira, you just heard Nick there. Pakistan does not have the luxury of waiting until negotiators turn up before they prepare for their arrival. Pakistan is still setting the stage. That could happen or could not happen. What is it doing to make sure that if they do happen, they get a good result?
Currently, there is a lot of uncertainty given the fact that Iranians are not committing their participation in the second round of peace talks to be held in Islamabad. But what we are hearing from the Pakistani sources on the condition of anonymity is that the peace talks will go ahead as they are planned, but the timing is not yet clear. We are still awaiting confirmation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Islamabad, and perhaps in the next few hours, we are expecting some major announcement or the developments if the delegations start to arrive in Islamabad. Behind the scenes, diplomacy is in full swing. What we are hearing from different diplomatic sources is that Pakistani military and civilian leadership both are in direct contact with the American and Iranian leaders, trying to find a middle ground to resolve the conflict through negotiations. It's definitely going to be an uphill task for the Pakistani officials, especially after U.S. is is continuing its naval blockade of the Iranian ports, and this has actually angered the Iranian leadership, and that's what we are hearing from the diplomatic sources. This is one of the major concerns by the Iranians, that they are, hesitant to commit their participation in the peace talks that are to be held in Islamabad, though there are unprecedented security measures here in the capital. Security is still tightened around all the major buildings. So Pakistan is trying its level best, especially we are hearing that the Chief of Defense Forces, Mr. Asim Munir, is going all out to convince both the warring parties to resolve the conflict through negotiations. And the top priority of the Pakistani officials at the moment is resolve this big issue that Iranian has been flagging, that they want the U.S. to end this naval blockade of the Iranian ports. So definitely Pakistan is navigating this whole situation carefully while maintaining neutrality to the conflict.
All right, Nick, the US president, one area of support that will really matter to him is support at home. And for what it's worth, approval ratings in polls, where are we on approval for Donald Trump?
Well, basically what we have seen is, since the start of this conflict, polls after poll showing the majority of Americans are against the war. Many are concerned about the potential for a protracted conflict. But some interesting reading in the latest Reuters Ipsos poll showing particularly weakening support amongst his own Republican Party. 36% of all Republicans and Democrats now say that they approve of military strikes, so really only 1 in 3. And on top of that, many are saying that they don't feel he has the right temperament to make major decisions when it comes to conflicts. Asked if he was even-tempered, only 1 in 4 Americans say that he is. Republicans specifically, only 53% thinks that he is even-tempered, and half of all Americans believe that his mental ability has declined in the last year, therefore showing that he is not as fit as he was to make these type of decisions. Major problems ahead for him, of course, as we see his approval rating dropping. If this conflict continues, we will continue to see high gas prices, and we're about to head into the summer season when millions of Americans will be hitting the road. A reminder every time they fill up their vehicles about this conflict and how much they disapprove of it. But also further ahead in November, the midterms, real potential, the longer this drags on, that the Republicans could lose control of the House and the Senate, making Donald Trump a lame duck for the final 2 years of his presidency.
Thanks for that. Hira Mustafa in Islamabad and Nick Harper for us in Washington, D.C.